For thousands of years, Egyptians have been famous for their burial rituals. What was the idea behind the mummification rituals? What were the Egyptian beliefs about the afterlife? The Metropolitan Museum of Art is currently showcasing a recently acquired Gilded Coffin, plus 70 artifacts related to Egyptian funeral beliefs.
Right now we are in an exhibition dedicated to the coffin of the priest Nedjemankh. He lived in the 1st century BC in the Greco-Roman era, and we are very fortunate to have his beautiful coffin made of gilded cartonnage. And what we've done is we've built an exhibition around this coffin. We talk about Nedjemankh himself and the world in which he lived, what he would have done as his job, and then we've used the beautiful decoration of this coffin to talk about ancient Egyptian funerary beliefs. So this section talks about Nedjemankh and his world. Nedjemankh was a priest of a god named Horus. Horus was a ram-headed god. He was a fertility god, and he was worshipped towards the north of Egypt. So this is a facsimile painting of tomb decoration that shows a procession from a temple, and then we have a procession of priests coming out with a divine image. And then you can see here, we have the censer here, we have the censer here, we have a priest holding a censer. The coffin itself, as I said, is made of gilded cartonnage. Cartonnage is made of layers of linen glued together and then coated with plaster. The inscription down here on the legs talks about gold and silver. And if we walk around to the back of the coffin, the inside of the coffin has silver on it. All of these images have to do with the afterlife. Getting Nedjemankh to the afterlife, where he would be reborn as a divine being, hence the gold and the silver, and helping him to live there eternally as a blessed spirit. In the middle there, you can see an embalming scene. You can see Nedjemankh as a mummy lying on this bed, and he's surrounded by gods who are attending to him. He here represents the god Osiris, who was the god of the dead. He was the principal god of the dead.
In Egyptian mythology, Osiris was the king who was murdered by his brother Set, so Osiris became the god of the dead. Osiris' mother was the sky goddess Nut, her father the earth god Geb, his sister Nephthys, and Isis his sister and wife. After Osiris' death, Isis sewed together his body and brought him back to life for just one day to get herself pregnant. Isis gave birth to a son named Horus, who defeated Set and took back the throne. So Horus became the sun god, representing the ruling pharaohs of Egypt.
In this case, we have a figure of Horus with a sun disk, who is one embodiment of the sun god. Horus is also the son of Osiris and Isis, but he's also associated with the sun god during the day. And then we have a number of wonderful images of either the sun god himself or protectors or deities related to the sun god.
In ancient Egypt, the deceased body would be preserved so he could face the trial of the heart in the afterlife.
The deceased went to the afterlife. One of the things that he or she had to do was pass through this test. So Nedjemankh is being brought into this hall, the Hall of Osiris, and his heart is being weighed on a balance against a figure of the goddess Ma'at. And there are the judges, 42 judges, and also there's a text that goes with it that has the deceased reciting what we call Declaration of Innocence, where he says, I did not steal, I did not murder, I did not do anything bad, I was a good person. If the scales balance, then Nedjemankh gets to join the company of Osiris, and if it doesn't, his heart is eaten by this horrible monster, the devourer, that you see in the middle there, and he dies forever. And then the registers down here have to do with the solar cycle, because the other thing that Nedjemankh wants to do, he wants to join the sun god, Re, in the eternal cycle of death and rebirth. So we see here images that have to do with the solar cycle. We see the baboons here, and baboons become associated with both the rising and the setting sun. Down at the bottom, we see two boats, and that's Isis, the wife of Osiris, with a Bennu bird representing the sun god in one, and a Djed pillar representing Osiris. This section of the exhibit is dedicated to the embalming, the mummification, which we saw on the coffin itself. This is where the mummy would have been laid, and it is watched over by Anubis, who was the principal god of embalming. And here we have Isis, Osiris's wife, and Nephthys, their sister. Nephthys helped Isis bring together all of the parts of Osiris that were scattered around and make him into a mummy, and they are always seen protecting the mummy. And we have down here, we have 4 what are called canopic jars. And what they did when they mummified someone was take out the viscera, the stomach, the lungs, the liver, and put them inside these canopic jars. And they were the ones who protected the individual viscera. We have them here again. Here we have the 4 sons of Horus. Anubis was one of the most important jackal gods. There's another very important jackal god named Wepwawet. They both are responsible to help the deceased pass from life on earth to life after death. Then over here, we have the goddess Nut with her arms outstretched twice. So remember, Nut is a very, very important goddess as the sky goddess, and she protects the deceased. And then we also have a scarab, a winged scarab with a sun disk. And you'll see this on Nedjemankh's coffin. There's a scarab with a sun disk on his forehead. Scarab beetle is both embodying the sun at dawn as it rises over the eastern horizon and pushing the sun disk over the horizon. And then we have a beautiful baboon. This actually dates to the time of Ramses the Great, Ramses II. Again, baboons were considered the heralds of the sun god as it rose over the horizon, and also to help it transition into the netherworld. And then right here, we have a pyramidion, which is a very important solar symbol. You know, the great pyramids at Giza and at other sites are solar symbols. They represent the rays of the sun streaming down from the sky. On one side, we have baboons worshiping the sun in one of his boats, because the sun always would travel in boats. We're talking about Egypt, it's the land of the Nile. So on this side, we have the rising sun. So there again, we have the scarab beetle pushing the sun disk. And on this side, we have what is likely the sun in its netherworld existence. The main thing about this exhibit is to understand the coffin as a kind of a rebirth machine, as a transition machine. This is a coffin, so we're very focused here on the afterlife.